Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Claire Aiken with the Monstera Plant Resource Center, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the Ultimate Monstera Care webinar. We're going to be talking with an exclusive guest, Tristan Schmitt from HouseplantShop.com, and we're going to be talking about everything that you've ever wanted to know about Monsteras today. So first, I just want to take a moment and welcome you to the Monstera Plant Resource Center. We have a website that has tons of resources on everything you may be asking yourself about your Monstera. So how to grow, what's the best soil, how to clean your plant's leaves, where to find great plants online, and everything including containers, cares, problem solving. We have Monstera specific products. We have a free care guide that you can download, and you can check out our Facebook group where you can ask a question and upload photos of your plant. So check us out there. You can find all the links below. So today I just want to give you a little bit of background on my story. So my name's Claire Aiken, and I'm a writer by trade. I'm also a gardener. So I grew up gardening. My mom is a master rose gardener. She has hybrid tea roses. I also have a rose garden with hybrid tea roses, but I really got into houseplants when my grandmother started teaching me about her houseplants. She had one of the first fiddle leaf figs that I've ever seen. She got a fiddle leaf fig back in 1970, which is when they first came out. They didn't get popular till decades after that. And so she taught me everything she knew about caring for houseplants, and her home was always filled with beautiful plants, spider plants, pothos. She had a monstera back in the 70s, and of course her fiddle leaf fig was the first of its kind. And so that's where I really found my passion about houseplants and caring for them, and also specifically, using your intuition to care for plants. And so it's just been a really rewarding hobby that I've had all of my life, and that I really hope to teach to my two daughters. I also am a fertilizer specialist and a lecturer at UCLA Extension, and so I teach a lot of courses, and that's why I decided to use my teaching skills to help teach people about houseplants. And so I hope that this webinar is helpful for you. So I wanted to take a moment and welcome our guest, Tristan Schmitt. He is the entrepreneur, the co-founder of HouseplantShop.com, which is my favorite place to buy plants online. He's an outdoor enthusiast, and he also is a houseplant specialist. So Tristan, welcome to our webinar, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about HouseplantShop.com, because it's an amazing resource. I am so excited to have a place to buy plants online that is, provides amazing, healthy plants and super fast shipping. It is my go-to place. I'll tell everybody, instead of, I used to send flowers to people or gifts, I just send everybody I know plants, because your plants are beautiful. They get there super quickly, and they're such a great value. So anytime I have a friend with a birthday, or they move into a new house, or, Mother's Day, I just send along houseplants from your company, and I've been just totally blown away by the quality. So tell us about how you guys started up and how you got to where you are today.
I'm glad you like all the plants we've been sending you. So, Houseplant Shop, yeah. So this is actually not that old of a company. We started this about 3 years ago. It actually started very small. We started with air plants. For those of you who don't know what those are, they are nice little plants that actually grow in tropical jungles and latch onto trees and feed off the moisture in the air. So that was super popular. Started with air plants, and obviously from there we just thought, okay, what other plants can we sell? And that led us to potted houseplants, indoor houseplants. And now on our website, one of our big goals is to be able to offer a very wide selection of plants. That's a big reason people shop with us, is we have one of the largest online selections, and we're based in San Diego, California, where there's a large concentration of greenhouses here. So we have all the best plants are here, all the best growers. So it's a great location for us, and we're able to offer a wide selection to people and have very affordable pricing. So yeah, so it's a great resource there. We have care guides, and with every plant we send you all the information you need to take care of it. And of course, everything has a 30-day guarantee. So if you have any issues with your plants, or if anything happens during shipping, we'll gladly replace it for you. So there's no risk there.
Yeah, and the pricing is amazing. There's a clearance section that I love to shop. We also will give you a coupon code at the end of this webinar, so you can save 10% on anything you order. And it's worth noting that I believe you guys plant a tree every time you sell a plant. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct. So we have, with every order we send out, we plant a tree. And we also have the option for any customers that come on our website. We have a little check, you can do it, check out. And if you want to plant any extra trees, you have that option. So it's a great way to give back to the planet.
I love that. I think that's so cool. And that's one of the reasons I tell people, instead of buying flowers, get somebody a houseplant, because it really is, improving the planet. And then if you think on top of that, planting an extra tree, that's an extra bonus that everybody can feel good about. So that's so cool. So yeah, let me tell you guys about why I created the Monstera Resource Center. And so we also have a fiddle leaf fig plant resource center. So if you have a fiddle leaf fig, head on over there. You'll find tons of resources, the ultimate fiddle leaf fig care webinar, all kinds of information like that. So that site was so successful that I wanted to create a specific site for Monsteras, because we get so many questions on those. And I really believe they're the hot new plant of the future. And so we created this site to just give away everything we know. We believe in the power of houseplants. I really believe that houseplants can improve people's confidence, improve their health and their well-being in their homes. And I wanted to simplify confusing information, because I have so many friends that I ask, why don't you have a plant, or can I get you a plant? And they say, no, I have a black thumb. And I know there's so many novice growers that are not confident in their abilities. And I just want to teach everybody that I can that it's easy to grow houseplants. All you need to do is give them a lot of light, give them a little bit of love, and don't overwater them. And anybody who thinks they have a black thumb can really start to build their confidence and start to have an amazing, fulfilling relationship with their plants. So it's my goal to, instead of overcomplicate information, to just make it really easy. Easy, actionable, positive information is what you'll find on our website to help you to have a good relationship with your plant and to feel good every day when you look at your plants. And so check out our website for everything you need to know. And I hope that this webinar will break it down and make it easy, even if you're a novice grower. So of course, at the end of the webinar, you can share this. So if you found this webinar helpful, please share it either on Pinterest or Instagram. You can get a coupon code. You can save 10% on all of our products and on live plants through houseplantshop.com. So go to monsteraplantresource.com/save for that. So let's get into the meat and the potatoes of this webinar. So houseplants are mysterious and wonderful beings. And so this shot is from an amazing video that IKEA did recently. And so what they wanted to demonstrate with this video is the power of our intentions and our words on houseplants. Nobody knows how this works, and there's been a lot of scientific studies that replicate this. If you want to read more about it, check out a book called The Intention Experiment. It goes through all the scientific data about how our thoughts and our intentions and our words affect houseplants. But it's incredible. So the plant on the right only had good and positive words said to it. So strangers came up and they said negative words and negative intentions to the plant on the left, and the plant on the right got positive words and love. And you can see the difference in their health. We're not sure why this happens, but it has been replicated by multiple studies, and it's an incredible reminder that the way you feel about your plants has an effect on them. And so I encourage you, if you have a plant that's struggling in your home, change your relationship with that plant and see how it grows and how its health improves. And I notice even in my own home, of course, I have dozens and dozens of plants, maybe too many. My husband would say probably too many, but I can tell that the ones that I don't have a good relationship with, that I haven't taken the time to name or to get to know or to look at carefully, they're not doing as well. And as soon as I change that intention and give them some time and some energy and some love, they start to really blossom. And so let's walk through the history of Monstera. So first of all, a lot of people think that these are philodendrons, and they are not. And that's one of my pet peeves. And I'm sure, other people out there see these listed as split leaf philodendrons. They're not. They're actually more related to peace lilies and calla lilies. They're more distantly related to pothos and philodendron, but they're basically in the lily family. And Monstera deliciosa is the main variety of Monstera, and it means delicious monster, and that's because of the big fruit that these guys produce in the wild. So they're native to Central America and Mexico, where they get huge and they produce this giant fruit, and so that is why they're called Monstera deliciosa. And so here is the fruit. I just wanted to show you guys a quick picture. Of course, houseplants don't typically produce fruit. It is possible if they got large enough, they got enough light, but we very, very rarely see it. So actually in the wild, fiddle leaf figs and monsteras produce flowers and fruit, and that's the way that the plant reproduces itself, but not typically in your house. And so here's a photo of the fruit. It is described as sort of a mixture between a banana and a pineapple in the taste. It's delicious. I haven't had one, but it's described as delicious, and it's called the fruit salad plant, also because of this amazing fruit that it produces. It almost looks like a corn on the cob, but it has kind of a tropical flavor and texture. And these plants can get up to 80 feet tall in the wild, and so they're really, really cool if you see them outdoors. Their leaves get huge. It's also called the lion paw plant because of the shape and the size of the leaf. And so I just want to walk through what makes Monsteras unique, not only in the wild, but also as a houseplant. So they're so cool, and I think they're so popular because of the size and the shape of the leaf. Of course, it's stunning. It looks amazing from a design perspective. It gives kind of that statement that a fiddle leaf fig gives, but with a more a different pattern on the leaves. But one really cool thing is that you can grow them both up to have them grow up like a pole or a moss pole, and they can also hang down. And so, a fiddle leaf fig, you basically have to stake to have it grow up, but Monsteras, you can hang in a basket and have them hang down, which is really makes them more versatile. And that's why I really think they're going to be the hot new plant of the next year and maybe even the next decade. And so let's just get back to the basics of what's the difference between a Monstera and a split leaf philodendron. And so they actually look pretty similar. So you see on the left, that's a true philodendron, and on the right, that is a split leaf philodendron. So that is not a Monstera, but you can see that they actually look similar. And so that's why the common name is just a mistake. People called Monsteras split leaf philodendrons. The gardeners started calling them that. The buyers were calling them that. And so that's what growers labeled them as, even though they know it's not true. And so you will still see in Home Depot and plant stores, you'll still see Monsteras labeled as split leaf philodendrons, even though it's not the case. But it's just something to know. So let's talk about the benefits of your plant in your home. So like all houseplants, houseplants purify the air in your home. There's an interesting book that you can read. It's called, I think it's called Pure Air, but it's about I'll link it below. It's about using houseplants to purify the air in your home. And NASA actually worked really hard in the International Space Station to produce technology to purify the air. And the best technology they could come up with was using houseplants to purify the air of the space station, because they do such an incredible job of removing carbon dioxide and toxins and releasing pure oxygen. So they purify the air, they look great in your home, they increase the relative humidity of your home, they've been studied to reduce illness, to improve mood, and to even boost productivity. And so that's why you see all these offices adding plants around the office, because it really does increase your focus and your productivity during the workday. A lot of cultures believe that houseplants bring good luck, and there's studies that show they reduce stress and improve your happiness. And I will say that, once you start to love the Monstera, you will see them everywhere. You can see them all over Pinterest, all over Instagram. There's Monstera wallpaper now. You can see them on prints. I just saw a backpack that had Monsteras all over it. There's these beautiful earrings here. And so keep your eyes out. I really think it's going to be the hottest plant of 2020 and beyond. And you can see the patterns of the leaf everywhere. I just think it's such a cool trend. All right, so Tristan, why don't you help us walk through the varieties of Monsteras. So on your site, what are the main varieties that you guys are selling on your site?
On our site, we actually mainly have one, the Monstera deliciosa, which is one of the most common ones you will see. We do sell it in different sizes. We have a 4-inch pot, 6-inch pot, an 8-inch pot. Currently on our website, unfortunately, the 4-inch ones and the 8-inch ones have been out of stock, just because like you're saying, this is such a popular plant now, and everyone wants them. The growers are really struggling to keep up with the demand. But some other ones I've seen actually is the Monstera deliciosa, but the variegated version. I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but it's absolutely a gorgeous plant. It has white and green on the leaves. And that's another plant that we'd love to find a local grower that could get that plant, but sometimes they're just so rare that the growers aren't able to keep up with demand. So hopefully with some times, as the growers stock up on some cuttings, and they can get a little bit more of these out there, so we could put them on our website and get them to our customers.
Absolutely. And this is it, you guys. This is the hottest houseplant right now. It is the hardest one to get. Well, I will say the variegated fiddly fig is a little bit harder to get, but I don't recommend that one because it's really hard to grow. This is easier to grow and you can get a higher quality plant. But this is the variegated Monstera Thai Constellation. It is everything. I cannot wait to get one. I don't have one yet, but it's the top of my birthday list, and my birthday is on Thursday. So hopefully somebody will be getting me one of these plants, but I think it's amazing. I can't wait till you guys start selling them. I just ordered 2 Monsteras that are in a 6-inch pot from your website yesterday, and I'm super excited. Those are going to be a gift for my mom. And one cool thing about these plants is they grow really, really quickly. So you can buy at a low price these 6-inch potted ones, and I'm going to put them in 10-inch pots that my mom has right next to her front door in her entryway, and they're going to be huge in no time. So you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money on large plants. You can get the smaller ones, put them in a little bit bigger pot, and just watch them grow because they are really fast growers. So here's another option. So this is a beautiful version. It's Monstera Adansonii, and so you can see there's a little bit greater holes in the leaves, and this is a really good example of why it's called the Swiss cheese plant. You can see kind of the Swiss cheese holes there, and so this is a very cool variety here as well. And then this is a cool version too. So this variation actually looks so much like a philodendron that it's no wonder that people think that this is a philodendron. So this is just doesn't have the, the trademark holes that we typically see. And so you can see the leaf is about the same size as these versions, same shape, but it doesn't have those holes. And so this is a really cool variation that's pretty rare as well if you're building your collection. And then I would say this is probably the most unique and the hardest to find, the OBLIQUA. It almost looks like a prehistoric plant or something. It's so cool. I haven't seen too many of these available. I know there's a couple on eBay, but of course you have to be careful buying plants on eBay. I've wasted a lot of money and gotten plants that have died, kind of the rare varieties. So be careful with eBay, but this is definitely a plant that is a little bit hard to get, but very, very cool if you're able to get one. I just love them. So let's just walk through the basics of houseplant care. So I know a lot of people who are watching this webinar, this may be your first houseplant, and that's okay. And you may think, that houseplants are hard to grow. They're not. They grow in the wild naturally. Nature doesn't do anything special to get them to grow. So they really will grow as long as you don't screw anything up. And so let's walk through how plants work. So first of all, the main thing they need is sunlight. So they get all of their energy from sunlight. And so it's incredibly important to give them as much light as possible. And when I tell people that houseplants need a lot of light, it's, we're not just talking about, the lights from your overhead lighting. They need sunlight. They need energy from the sun. And so they need windows, large windows that hopefully face towards the arc of the sun. So if you're in the northern hemisphere and the sun moves, to our south, this means large south-facing windows are the best. And so if you think about putting a plant like this in an east or a west-facing window, the problem is a east-facing window is only going to get light in the morning, which can be fine for some plants, and it depends on the size of your window and the direction that it faces. But a west-facing window can be a little bit tricky because it gets a lot of hot sun only in the afternoon. So your plant would be missing out on, most of the day's sunlight, and then it's really getting strong sun in the afternoon, which can burn the leaves. So you could try it, depends on your exact situation, but a south-facing large window is really going to be the best for a plant like this that likes a lot of light. I do have a couple of them in my north-facing windows, but that said, I'm also in San Diego, and so we are relatively south, and so my northern-facing windows get more light, if that makes any sense. So you really just have to think about your setup, your apartment or your home, and the windows that you have, and where your plant is going to look good. But the more light, the better for these plants. And so the roots, the stems, and the leaves really work together to absorb nutrients and water, use sunlight for photosynthesis, and to produce flowers and fruit, because that's how the plant reproduces, right? Of course, this is in the wild. In our homes, they don't get enough nutrition, they don't get big enough, they don't get mature enough, and they don't get enough light to produce flowers and fruit. That said, their leaves and their roots are tied together in this spiral of sickness and health. And so you really want to keep their root system healthy so that they have robust growth and that they have healthy leaves. And so what do they need to thrive? Of course, we talked about light, Carbon dioxide, that's not a problem. So that's in the air. So they just eat up that and produce pure oxygen with it, but also water, just the right amount of water. You do not want to overwater these. You want to keep the soil, basically it needs to be watered and then it needs to almost dry out between waterings because their roots, a lot of people who don't grow houseplants don't realize that their roots not only need water, but they also need air. So you need your soil to be partially aerated so that the roots don't drown and they don't rot. And then, of course, the last thing they need is love and attention. And so let's talk about just the basics, 10 commandments of caring for a Monstera plant. So first of all, you need good drainage. So the first mistake people make is they get this beautiful plant and they put it in a container that doesn't drain and your plant will die, I guarantee you. And so just because you want a beautiful container, that's fine. Leave your plant in the grower's pot that has good drainage. Place a little saucer at the bottom and place it inside your decorative container. So you could still have it in a beautiful woven basket or, a metal container with no drainage. Just leave it in the grower's pot and, let it drain properly. Don't drown them. So the first thing I always did when I was younger and when I was a little girl is I would water my houseplants all the time because I loved them and I would kill them with kindness. So you don't want to water these plants too often. I would say less than once a week, depending on the size of your container, depending on your soil, etc. But you don't want to overwater these. You want to let them dry out a little bit between waterings. Of course, they need a ton of light. And then the other thing I tell people is step 4, accept the loss of older leaves. And so don't panic if your plant is losing leaves that are near the bottom of the plant or that are older. That is completely normal. They're growing new leaves all the time. They shed their older leaves. You don't need to panic and don't get frustrated unless your plant starts having bigger problems. Give them humidity. They do like humidity. Plants like to be grouped together with other plants. If you live in a really cold climate and you run the heater a lot, that's going to be difficult on your plants. And so you may think about adding a humidifier or increasing the humidity for them. Don't starve them. So, plants in the wild, constantly the soil is being replenished by the decomposition that's happening on the rainforest floor. So there's dropping leaves, there's, microbial activity, and there's always replenishing nutrients in the soil. But in a pot, what you're doing is you're sticking your plant in this pot and it's depleting the soil. And if you're not fertilizing your plant, you're not replenishing the nutrients and it's literally starving. And so you want to make sure to feed your plant, especially if you want to keep it healthy or if you want new growth and you want it to get bigger. Nutrition is really important. We'll talk about that later. And then treat the problems quickly. So if you see brown spots, if you see yellowing, if you see, insects, you really want to strike as soon as you can and fix the problem as soon as you can so it doesn't spread to other plants or it doesn't, start to get too bad that your plant can't recover. Repot when needed. If you want your plant to get bigger, you can always put it in a new pot, give it new soil, and, give it the opportunity to grow larger. Or the opposite is true. If you have a plant that's big, you don't want it to get any bigger, keep it in the exact same pot, and that will constrict the growth. It'll keep it from getting too tall or too big for your space. And then, of course, when you look at these beautiful leaves, it's important to keep them clean. First of all, so they look good. Second of all, so they can do photosynthesis and they can absorb carbon dioxide and absorb the light that they need. So keeping them clean is important not only for their looks, but also for their health. And then I encourage you to name your plant, to bond with it every week, and to check on it, maybe snap a picture and post it on Instagram. The hashtag is Monstera Monday. And so why don't you walk us through, Tristan, any tips you have for repotting or for the best soil for your Monstera, and I'll talk a little bit more about our views on that as well.
Yeah, so like you're saying, Monstera, the soil, you want to make sure there's plenty of drainage because if you water it and the soil stays too soggy, you're just going to give your Monstera root rot. So you want to make sure that when you water it, the water starts draining out of the bottom through the drainage holes, and you don't want it to sit. You don't want to leave too much water in the saucer where it will sit in there for too long because that will make it susceptible to root rot. And one soil that people like to use is something that's a little peaty, so that the air can get to the roots and keeps them really healthy. As far as the soil, something like you're saying, just something that keeps it aerated is really the best idea for that.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point. So first of all, you want to start with kind of a lighter soil mix for these plants, something that's not going to stay evenly moist. If you buy just a regular houseplant soil, a lot of times, there's a lot of houseplants. So those are made for everything from a fern to a fiddle leaf fig, and they're not well suited for all of those. Ferns like to stay moist all of the time. Fiddle leaf figs need to dry out between waterings. So what I recommend is you can make your own soil. You can get a regular houseplant soil and then lighten it up with a cactus mix, or we actually have a soil that is perfect for monsteras, and I'll link it below if you want to buy it, or you can mix your own. So just make sure to really lighten it up. Don't use something that's going to stay too soggy or too wet. And then, like Tristan mentioned, watch out for soil compaction. So aerating your soil is important as the life of your plant goes on. If you've had a plant in a pot for several years and you're watering that, maybe every week, the soil is getting more and more compacted and the roots aren't allowed to breathe. So what you can do is you can take a skewer, like a wooden skewer, or even a moisture meter, that's what I use, and just wiggle it around and loosen up the soil and loosen up the root ball to allow your roots to breathe a little bit better. And that's a good way to fight soil compaction. And so let's talk about nutrition a little bit. A lot of people that buy these plants want them to grow. They want the leaves to be huge. They want them to be dark green. And so feeding it is essential. And so you need to feed your plant. NPK are kind of the nutrients that your plant needs. So nitrogen, and that's really important for the leaves, the dark green leaves, the healthy leaves. Also, the splits in the leaves are affected by nitrogen. So a nitrogen deficient plant will have less of that Swiss cheese look than one that's getting proper food. Phosphorus is great for the roots. It's really important for strong roots. And then for growth, they really need potassium. And so we recommend a 5-3-3 or 5-3-2 ratio and avoiding urea. And we have a Monstera plant food if you're interested. It is basically formulated for this plant. So it's the perfect NPK ratio. You can use it every single week when you water or every single time you water so that you don't forget, and there's no risk of burning your plants. You just add a teaspoon per plant and you feed it every single time you water, and you will have a super healthy plant. And so that's what we recommend. Or you can just buy, whatever houseplant food that you like and make sure to use it according to the directions. One thing I want to give a word of caution is just be really careful when you're mixing your fertilizers. So you never want to do a liquid fertilizer with a solid fertilizer or stakes of fertilizer, because what you can do is you can end up burning your plant. So pick one fertilizer, stick to it, and follow the directions so that you don't overdo it for your plant. And so let's walk through how to clean and protect your leaves. And so like we talked about, it's important to clean them. I recommend just putting your plant in the shower and showering it off with lukewarm tap water if your plant's small enough. If you have a really, really big plant, or maybe it's a hanging plant that is not easy to move, you can spray it and just wipe down the leaves. And then we also have a leaf armor for Monsteras that you can check out below if you're interested. Some people love doing leaf shine treatments. Some people hate them. I'm kind of on the fence, but that's why we created our leaf armor product. It's not just a cosmetic product. So what it is it protects your leaves from insects, from fungus, and from bacteria. And so it's a proprietary formula. You can learn more about it below, but you spray it on, maybe once a month, every 2 to 4 weeks, and it can protect your plant from insects, fungus, and bacteria, as well as provide a little bit of a shine. And so you can get that glossy shine while you're also doing something really good for your plant, as well as cleaning it. So check out that if you're interested. And so why don't you walk us through, Tristan, kind of the basics about watering and how people should know when to water their plant?
Okay. Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, I think one of the biggest things that new plant owners do is they tend to give it too much water. They give it a little too much love, and that's the easiest way to kill it. So as a general rule for many plants, it's usually when the top of the soil starts to feel dry to the touch, that's when you want to give it water. So for Monsteras, typically general rule is when you start feeling the top 2-3 inches of the soil is dry, that's when you're going to want to give it some more water. And when you water it, you're going to want to water it sparingly until the water starts draining out of the bottom, so that it soaks the whole soil and everything, and the roots will be healthy. So pretty much just make sure not to overwater it. So if it's already moist, make sure you don't give it water, because that's gonna probably damage the roots.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And one thing that I will add, if you're a really data-driven person like I am, kind of reaching in and saying, is it dry yet? When should I water? I want a data point to tell me when to water. And so that's why I use moisture meters with my plants. You can check out a link below to get a moisture meter, but basically what it is you insert it into the soil and it gives you a readout of a number of how moist the soil is. And so sometimes you'll look at your plant and you'll think, I haven't watered it in 2 weeks. It probably needs to be watered. And then you'll stick the moisture meter in and you'll say, well, oh my God, it's at a 10. I do not need to water this plant. And the way that your plant uses moisture in its pot really has to do with the size of the plant, the type of plant that it is, the type of root system, how dry it is outside, how much sunlight it's getting. And so you can't just wait a week or 2 weeks. You really have to investigate and think about when to water. And I think that's why houseplants are somewhat challenging for people sometimes, is you have to use your intuition and make a decision. But a moisture meter is a great way to get some extra data to help you make a good decision about when to water. So you can check out moisture meters below if you think that would be helpful for you. It certainly gives me just an extra bit of confidence with each of my different plants. And there's a little chart on there that says for each type of plant when you should water. So fiddly fig, I think it's a 4. So once it's a 4 or less, you can water. Monstera, I think, is a 5 or less. And so you can check that out below and get a little bit more confidence in your watering routine. And so Tristan's going to walk us through a few of the common problems that he sees in Monsteras and kind of some advice on how to treat those.
Okay, so the first one, as we mentioned, is the root rot, which, like we mentioned, is if you water it too much or if you don't have aerated soil, it's going to damage the roots. So if you do get root rot and it hasn't spread to the whole plant, one thing you can do is remove the roots from the soil, kind of clean it up, and trim off any of the roots that look rotted. So in order to kind of protect the rest of the plant. So if you catch it early enough, it is recoverable. But once it spreads to the whole plant, that is something that will kill it and is not really recoverable. So you got to make sure you keep on top of that. And as soon as you notice root rot, you want to make sure you take care of it. And as far as insects, so one of the big ones is spider mites can get on them. If you notice yellow specks that are on the surface of the leaf, that's usually a sign of spider mites. One easy way to combat this is to use neem oil. You can just spray it on the leaves, and that will kill off the eggs, and it will slowly kill the adults as well. Another insect that are scale insects can reach the plant, particularly mealybugs can appear. So these things attach themselves to the stems and will suck the life out of the plant essentially over time. So this is another thing that can be prevented with neem oil. So if you can grab a bottle of that at a local nursery and spray it occasionally, that's a good defense. And yellowing leaves. So if your Monstera has yellowing leaves, this is often because you're overwatering it. So if you do notice that, make sure you let the soil dry a little bit before you water it. And another thing yellow leaves could indicate is a lack of fertilizer. So if you do see that, it'd be great to use some of the fertilizer that Claire had mentioned before. And slow growth. So slow growth, this usually has to do with the sunlight. If you're not giving your plant enough sunlight, it's probably not going to grow very fast. So you might want to move it closer to a window or a south-facing window. And if it doesn't get enough light too, another thing is that the Monstera might not form the slits or the holes in the leaves, which is very unique to it. So you kind of want to make sure you can give your plant enough light to have that appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love these plants because they really tell us a lot about their health through their leaves. And so with the variegated Monstera, those need a lot of light. If you have a variegated one that's losing its variegation, that means it needs more light. If you have a plant that is losing the slits in the leaves, that typically means it needs more light as well. And so they give us a lot of data about their health through their leaves. And just if anybody doesn't know, a leggy plant, what that means is you have a long stem without very many leaves. And so you'll see this in a pothos where you'll have a long stem trailing down with only a few leaves. And they just kind of get kind of tall and gangly looking, and it's just not the nicest look. We want more leaves per stem, a bushier kind of look, and a healthier looking plant. And so that's what leggy means there. And that is certainly either light or fertilizer that typically cause that. One of the things I want to mention that Tristan said about these insects, so spider mites, mealybugs, and scale, those are all pretty contagious. Fiddle-leaf figs also get them. And so you do want to, if you see any evidence of insects, which would be holes in your plant, like you mentioned, you want to treat it carefully and quickly so that it doesn't spread to your other plants in your home. And neem oil is the perfect thing. It's so easy. It's natural. Make sure you throw down a tarp or some kind of, thing to protect your floor, and then just totally spray your plant, the top and the bottom of the leaves, with neem oil. And then on an ongoing basis, you can use our leaf armor to protect it in the future. But both of those problems are pretty easy to eradicate as long as you catch them quickly. So I just kind of want to close out here with the most important trick for helping your Monstera thrive, and that is bonding with your plant. And so take a minute to name your plant. I know it's a little bit kooky, but it really does work. And so, all of my plants have names, and I notice that the ones, as soon as I name them, they start doing better, they grow faster. You can remember to check on them for hashtag Monstera Monday, and, bonding with your plant, loving it, taking a look at it and seeing how it's doing, if it needs more water, less water, if it needs more light, and just having that good relationship with your plant is the most important thing, so that you can identify problems early, you can give your plant what it needs, and in return, you will have a healthy and fulfilling relationship with your plant. And so I just want to walk through how to buy online. And so I have bought several of these plants online. I love them. At the time of this taping, some of these plants were sold out, but I know you're back in stock now, and you're going to be back in stock next Wednesday. I checked for the 8-inch pot, I believe. So check out the houseplantshop.com for the latest on this, but they have a bunch of different sizes and varieties, super healthy plants. They come quickly through the mail. They're packaged and protected, so you just open up the box and you have your beautiful plant, and I've had a really great experience. You can check them out, and if you share this webinar, you can get the discount code to save 10%. And then if you're interested in learning more, check out our website, Monstera Plant Resource Center. And so you go to monsteraplantresource.com, check that out. You can get your cheat sheet, you can shop our store, you can read our blog, you can ask a question about your plant there. And so if you enjoyed this webinar, and I hope you did, please share it either on Pinterest or Instagram. You can tag us on Instagram. The link to do so is below. It's monsteraplantresource.com/save. You can save 10%. If you have any questions, email me, Claire@monsteraplantresource.com, and I can send you the coupon code if you have issues sharing it. But share it on Pinterest, Instagram, save 10% on not only our products, but also at houseplantshop.com. And Tristan, I just want to thank you so much for your time today and for the coupon code for everybody listening so they can get their hands on some amazing plants. We're super excited, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks for listening, and I hope you have a green day.